Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Criminal Minds, Season 2, Episode 7, North Mammon. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happens in the episode. So, episode begins with three girls going to stay at the home of one of their fathers who's out of town, or claiming to be out of town, for the night as a sleepover. And there is a big football game happening, but they play soccer, so they're, the forgotten ones of sorts. They arrive and are immediately kidnapped. And 5 days later, one of their mothers comes into the FBI, meeting Jennifer because she knows Jennifer's aunt. And she says that her daughter's been missing 5 days. No one is looking because they sent voicemails saying they were going on a road trip, but she does not believe that to be the case, and she wants help. Jennifer manages to get the local police to invite them to the case. They show up, realizing the messages were scripted. They bring together the family, search for what evidence they can, though they are again 5 days late. They're given a deadline of Friday, which is in 2 days, and they start looking for their answers. Through looking for answers, they discover some of the secrets of these small town people. One of the mothers is on depressants, or antidepressants, I should say, because she is depressed. Another couple favors their football son far more heavily than their soccer daughter. And then the last father is a lawyer who happens to be a homosexual, and he's not actually out of town. He was at a hotel with his secret lover who's married with kids. So he was somewhat suspected at first because the soccer jerseys of the girls were found outside the hotel that he was staying at. However, it turns out the garbage man who found the soccer jerseys is actually the one who kidnapped them. Spoiler. But anyways, he's briefly suspected. He suspects the coach because the coach was in a bit of a bind with underage solicitation, and the lawyer dad got him off, so he assumes it must be him since the girls are underage and have been kidnapped. But he turns out to be cleared. Once, however, all of the family is the families and the coach are sat down, they're like, you guys have been targeted for a reason. The coach's DNA was also left outside one of the houses so that it was very obvious. And ultimately, what ends up being revealed is that they all were on the same football team in a championship year. And this year is also a championship year, so it's coinciding very fortuitously, serendipitously. Not sure which of the words I was meant to be using, but the point is that everything is happening in the championship year. This is when the girls who have been held hostage without food or water and have been. One is sick, getting weaker and weaker. One, I believe that's Brooke. And then Polly has basically been taking care of Brooke while Kelly has been going around having a prolonged freak out about, nobody doing anything and they need to get out and this is, horrible. And that's when Brooke reveals to Polly that Kelly has a plan, but Brooke isn't sick enough yet. Then a little bit later, Kelly tries to enact her plan with Polly, telling Polly that they were told that they have to choose one of them to die. The other two will then be able to go free, and since Brooke is so sick, she's the logical choice to kill. And then the kidnapper throws a hammer into their little bunker, and this then leads to, while Kelly is trying to convince Polly, who's, probably the nicest of the three, that that it's logical and reasonable that they do choose one, Brooke ends up killing Kelly, which then does lead to them being released. Once they're released, they're driven and let go at the police station. Brooke's phone is turned back on, which then leads Garcia to calling them, saying their location, which happens to be outside of the police station. The girls are brought in, and Brooke confesses to killing Kelly in self-defense because she was going to kill her, was planning to kill her, but makes it clear that Polly had nothing to do with it because Polly was, caring for her, then trying to be convinced by Kelly, and was just kind of like on the outside of this whole thing. And then Polly was the one who was in the lead on the way out, so she saw the face of the person who kidnapped them. After finding out that all of the fathers involved were part of the championship football team in the last year that they had a championship team in that town, JJ brings a picture of the team to Polly, who points out the killer, which again turns out to be the garbage man. And so the team go to his house, they find the bunker and Kelly's body in it, and he basically says, I didn't touch them. They did this on their own. But obviously, kidnapping's still a crime, so he's going to be arrested regardless. And his reasoning provided for why he did what he did to them was because he was the captain of the championship football team, had a full ride to Notre Dame, but blew out his knee, lost his scholarship, and while everybody else has become successful, members of the police force, businessmen, lawyers, etc., having like these arguably fairly good lives, when a coach as well, he is just a garbage man cleaning up after their lives. He feels that they stepped into the life that he should have had, and so he decided to take it out on their children. And that is the pettiest reason one of these unsubs has given to date, I think. Um, and result is he is arrested. Neither of the girls are charged because one killed in self-defense, the other didn't kill at all. And everybody's secrets were exposed in the process. Then on the flight home, Erin tells JJ that she did really good work and asks her if she's ever been interested in taking the classes to become a profiler, but she says that she's happy in the job that she has right now, being the person that the local police can turn to for help when they need it, and that can be, the point of contact for the families, etc., etc. So, that's everything that happened in this episode. Now that we've been reminded about what happened in the episode, it is time to rank the episode, first in the mostly objective ranking and then the personal ranking. So our mostly objective ranking values that applied in this episode started with our single episode supporting character introduction. We have the two main police contacts, Chief Jeff Yates, who was part of the championship team, and handles everything that's at the police station, and then Sergeant Tom Sykes, who is the one who takes them to any location that isn't the police station and is their point of contact there. Then we have the three kidnapped victims. We have Kelly Seymour, she is the one who dies, Polly Homefelt, and then Brooke Chambers. Marcus Younger is the one who ultimately is the kidnapper and forces them to make that choice before releasing them. And lastly, we have Peter Chambers, who is Brooke's father and momentarily suspected of being the killer due to the fact that he wasn't where he said he was, and the jersey placement, etc. But that brings us all the way up to 7 points. Then we have 4 points for the multi-season main character development, which is JJ takes this case a little bit more personally, setting it up, bringing it to the team, working hard to convince the team that this is actually a case they should take. And this is because Polly's mother comes in sent by JJ's aunt, and she brings a picture with her of JJ showing that she was basically these girls in high school. She had two best friends. The three of them were in the picture together. She played competitive soccer. She got a full ride, which is what allowed her to get out of her small town and become the person she is today. And so that's an interesting backstory and a little bit more development into her history. As we already knew, she was from a small town, but now we know that she also got a scholarship and played competitive soccer. So that's 4 points. And then this episode was memorable. Um, Immediately, as soon as it started, I was like, I know exactly which episode this is and how it ends. So that was also worth 4 points. I didn't take any negative points in this episode. I debated potentially taking 4 for weak or dislikable characters because I did not like Kelly. But at the same time, given the duress that she was under, I honestly can't blame her. So I decided not to take those points. But otherwise, no points were taken in this episode. It is a 10 out of 10. And that brings it to first place on our mostly objective ranking, North Mammon. I keep wanting to say Mammon, but when the characters themselves were naming the town, they named it Mammon. So that is what it is. It just doesn't feel right for me to say it pronounce it that way. That's not how I thought it would be pronounced based on the way it was spelled. Anyways, the point is, first place is this episode. Then we have The Fisher King, Part 2, Aftermath, The Perfect Storm, The Boogeyman, P911, and then Psychodrama is in 7th place. My personal ranking for this episode, I did not like the ending. It would have been nice if they could all have been saved, but this isn't the type of show that, cushions things, so unfortunately, they did choose. One of them did end up having to die. But apart from that, I wish they hadn't had to all die, like have one of them die. I really liked this show. I liked that it was a very small cast of characters. I liked that there was a lot of drama around like all of these secrets of the adults in the thing and why their kids were being targeted. I think the situation in the bunker was also interesting when we got to see into it, how they all reacted differently, how they interacted with each other, how they all made a different decision than each other when it came to how to get themselves out of the situation. I do wonder, because they were given that deadline of Friday, had they not chosen someone before Friday, I do wonder what would have happened. Would they all have been left to starve and dehydrate? Would he have let them go, maybe them proving themselves to be a better person than their parents? I am very curious to know what would have happened in that scenario, but of course, again, they did decide to have the girls make their choice, and ultimately Kelly ended up dying. However, apart from that, like I said, I liked all of the drama and false leads, how it all came back to this one championship game, all paralleling to the current championship game. Everything about it, I think, was very interesting. Even how the killer decided not to kill them himself, but really was just forcing them to do it, which I believe they would consider a proxy killing. Um, how they were all managed to be kidnapped very easily, even though you'd think 3-on-1 should have been able to win, but he was very strategic in kidnapping them, watched them for a long time, because he was the garbage man. He had access to all of them and their trash. And you can learn a lot about a person through their trash, apparently. Um, Again, I didn't find any flaws with it. I found it was entertaining. I found it was compelling to watch. I wasn't distracted while watching it or feel the need to be distracted while watching it because I'm never distracted through these things. I always concentrate, but sometimes you have that urge. Didn't have it in this case. And like I said, it is one that was memorable and stood out. So I did decide to give it the first 10 out of 10 of the series. Because there were no 10 out of 10s in season 1, and No other 10 out of 10s in season 2 so far. So first 10 out of 10 for the series was this. North Mammon. Aftermath was second. The Boogeyman was third. Psychodrama fourth. The Fisher King Part 2 was in fifth. The Perfect Storm in sixth. And in last place for me was P911. Which now brings us to the series ranking so far. And we have season 1 being in first because it is the only season that's completed so far. And then season 2 on the Mostly Objective has a score of 44 out of 230, and on the personal ranking has a score of 57 out of 230. But with that, we have now rewatched and ranked Criminal Minds Season 2, Episode 7, North Mammon. No, North Mammon. I'm going to screw that up in every future list when it's not fresh in my mind. Just fair warning. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.